Hey,
Thank God it's
thank God it's
Friday, God.
Friday, Chinatu.
You know I'm not happy. I'm not even supposed to be laughing with Godwin, everyone. Because I was the only woman yesterday on set. Wale and Godwin went on an official. I understand it's an official assignment, but I mean, I just felt alone. I missed them so much. But Godwin is here, so I think he takes the fall for Wale.
Yes, I take the fall for Wale, so I'm officially apologizing on behalf of Wale and the entire crew for allowing you to be the only female on set yesterday.
I almost thought it was Women's Day again. Like,
Oh, we're back right now.
yes, that's the good thing. We are
And
back.
of course, we're back, viewers at home, and we're here on the headline review. I'm Godwin Sunday.
And I am Chinatu Oji.
All right, Chinatu, so let's begin with the conversation for today. First and foremost,
The train.
the train, about Port Harcourt, about train. Well, that train
I
is...
saw pictures online, and the first thing that came to my head was, okay, maybe it's something that they need to fix. It's not working. Until I started seeing comments that this is the train that's going to run between Aba and PH. You know, it looked like a refurbished thing. It looked like it was renovated, because a lot of people expect that, okay, Aba and PH already, they had that railway, was running before. So we're expecting something new since it's now starting again. Only for us to see that it's looking like a rickety bus with some fans dangling here and there. And if you look at the chairs, has some marks. I mean, when you see enter better bus, those buses that go to Ojuelegba like that, in Lagos, you understand what I'm saying. Godwin, who did this stuff? Because a lot of people expected something new, honestly.
Yes.
But we are looking at this one now, and it's supposed to be the new train that we're all supposed to celebrate and say, oh, thank you so much for doing this to the people of Aba and PH.
Well, you're looking at it from the rickety part of view. I'm looking at it from the point of view of the pricing in itself. Going to Port Harcourt by road is approximately 1,000 naira. You're going by road. So first class train is 1,500.
First class.
First class. Second class is 800 naira. So why will I want to do train when I can do road? And knowing fully well that if I'm doing road, if I'm going by road, I can do road for 1,300 to be fully comfortable.
Wait, are you saying that it's still 1,000 naira or between 1,300, even with this fuel
This
scarcity?
part of this night was 800.
Wow.
So when the fuel scarcity came, it increased to 1,000, 1,002. So right now it's almost the same thing. So one would
So
have
why
expected that
spend that if you can do that?
one would have expected that the train would probably go for something like 600 for first class, then 300 for second class. You know, because we have all the resources, even in the Niger Delta residents in Port Harcourt.
I mean, we expected more, honestly. We expected more.
But that train, the seat is something else.
No, I'm telling you, at least clean it up, let it look proper. Because those pictures we are seeing, no.
Chinatu, I'm the one telling you. Well, viewers at home, we'll go for a short break right now. When we come back, we'll be delving into the headline reviews. Please go nowhere as headline reviews continues in a moment. Welcome back. So, Chinatu, what do you have for us today?
Okay, we're taking it from, just give me a sec, let me get this done. Yep. Okay, we're taking it from Tribune, where the federal government yesterday disclosed that it cannot meet the 2025 deadline set to end open defecation in the country, despite the approval of 63.6 billion through the Executive Order 009, signed by the President Muhammadu Buhari in November 2019. The Minister of Environment, Ishaq Salaku, on Thursday admitted the Niger disclosed during a public hearing held at the instance of the Joint House Representatives Committee on Environment, Water Resources Works, Ecological Fund and Emergency and Disaster Preparedness, during which the lawmakers and Ministry of Water Resources traded words on the non-construction of boreholes in the Zonal Intervention Program, ZIP, as alleged by one of the members of the Joint Committee. 2025 is just, I mean, it's in a matter of months, actually. And from time immemorial, we've had the issue of open defecation. And it stems back to the kind of housing system we have in Nigeria, right? So you have people who have houses, or you see 10 houses, but they just have just one toilet, just one restroom. You see people, landlords build houses with no adequate facility for defecation. Why? And it goes back into the environment. People don't think about this, but I mean, most times when I apply the road, I see people park their vehicles, get in the gutters, and use the gutters to poop. I'm telling you. And you're wondering, what happens to the water? This water goes somewhere. Some people even do it in the stream, Godwin. People do it in the stream. People do it in the river. And you know when people say, oh, it doesn't affect me, but trust me, all of this thing comes back to us. Because if somebody does it in the stream or somebody does it in the river, you're going to take that water. You're going to take things from that water either ways. You're going to start getting sick. I mean, we talk about cholera and all of those things. These are the issues. But it goes back to how is our housing structure in Nigeria? Do we make appropriate, do we provide the adequate amenity to ensure that people who get houses, even in Abuja here, Godwin, that they have toilets to use? Because you see a house and then some people even ask, oh, if you need a toilet, it's only when you go to rent the house and now tell, oh, they are going to fix the toilet for you to use. So I understand the minister now saying that we can't even the 2025 looks like, I feel even in 2030, because the issue, if we don't treat it from the fundamental points, it's not something that can be fixed immediately. It's open defecation we're talking about.
Open
we have
defecation.
big gutters everywhere. I mean, we can take a stroll and I'll show you.
I thought open defecation has become like a tradition in Nigeria,
Telling
where
you.
it's no longer a conversation. It has come to stay.
Telling you.
It's not something that we try to eradicate. We should just try to institutionalize it and make it a thing that we do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Then we try to regularize the open defecation.
It's
Because
sad.
if we talk about open defecation and we're not sending the message to the grassroots, that means the National Ministry of Orientation is not doing enough to drive home the information around open defecation to the grassroots. Now, thinking of it, that President Muhammadu Buhari earmarked 63.6 billion naira to end open defecation, and it cannot be ended even with the targeted 2025. This calls for concern. Now, we begin to ask questions like, where did we get this wrong? How can we correct this? And until we get this right, we'll keep going, beating around the bush around open defecation. Because if we don't even start talking about open defecation and try to discourage it from the primary school systems, saying, okay, as a child, you don't openly defecate. Now we begin to discourage that movement in public schools, not just in private schools, but across board. We begin to discourage that, then bring that to the secondary school, bring proper hygiene system, and not just teach it, practicalize it in school. Because in some public schools, you have forests in those schools, and when children are pressed, they make those forests the first point of call for them to go and defecate.
Sorry.
I know you think it's like a fertilizer.
Bush, no, when you spoke about bush, I just wanted to point out that people only use bushes because they don't have water. For students, it's because there's no water. So you go to the schools, there's no running water. What is the Ministry of Water Resources doing? What is Ministry of Environment doing? So, I mean, you only use the bush if you're a student because there's no water to flush immediately. So you have to find your way.
So is there water in the bush?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the bush is like the safest place now.
Let's move on to something else. Let's move on to the second story for this morning. And we're going to This Day newspaper, where Naira abuse Cubana chief priest makes U-turn, opts for settlement. The This Day has it that celebrity barman Okechukwu Pascal, popularly called Cubana chief priest, and the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, have agreed to settle the Naira abuse charge slammed against the socialite out of court. The out-of-court settlement was made known at the resumption of proceedings on Thursday at the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos. At the resumption of trial, Cubana chief priest, counsel Chikaosolu Ojukwu San, informed Justice Kende Ogundare of the defendant's intention to tow the path of plea bargain subject to Section 14 of the EFCC Establishment Act. Now, recall that 2 weeks ago on this table, we're able to talk about how Obi Cubana also was arrested by the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, but the court granted him bail in Lagos. And we argued on this table also that
why was he granted bail and Bob was held
was held on this table. And here we've seen Obi Cubana chief priest again for the second time. He has entered a plea bargain with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in order for him to have a waiver to settle out of court. And of course, this has worked for him also. So I don't know what is playing out so far, but I thought the extent of the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, arresting him at first point is to ensure that this serves as a deterrent for Naira abuse. Now, with this approach to the law, won't this furthermore create more lacunas, more vacuums, if you like to use that word, in the Economic and Financial Crimes Act of 2004? I think this will further give loopholes for people to also plunder that route, knowing fully well that if I abuse the Naira, I can enter a plea bargain with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and also to be able to save my head from this whole tantrum on economical and financial crisis. So I think this is not a good deal, if you ask me. And the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, although they are settling out of court, but then it won't serve the essence of why he was picked up at first. Now knowing that he is a billionaire, Cubana's chief is a billionaire, or he's a millionaire, let's say, he's one of the financial pillars in the bar business in Nigeria. So we call him a celebrity barman. So if he's saying a celebrity barman can go away with this act, other barman too want to test the law, knowing fully well that this particular act will serve as a precedent for others to follow through. So this is not a good omen for me.
But we must also remember that in court he pleaded not guilty. We must also remember that.
If he pleaded not guilty, they don't need to enter a plea bargain.
I mean, he started from there. He pleaded not guilty in court. And so if you said you were not guilty, any other thing can now start happening. Because the person who said he was guilty, you know, somebody said something, say sometimes don't even see the truth because it might not set you free. And the person, I mean, the juxtaposition was between Bob Risky, rather, and Cubana chief priest. So Bob said he was guilty, or she was guilty, whoever.
She was guilty.
She was guilty, and then he was held. And he said he wasn't guilty, and now he's settling out of court. Now, I understand your point about when we punish people, you know, it deters other people from committing the same crime. Because as much as we want to protect our Naira, we also want to ensure that people do right by this country. We want to ensure that people don't just abuse the Naira. And I see that it's already happening. People are now more careful. I've seen some videos online where people do not spray money the way they used to, you know, abusing the Naira. Now people just give you the money in bundles. So I think it's already serving as a deterrent to other people. People are already taking precautions and doing right now. So what you spoke about, okay, is it serving? It is actually serving. But then we want the courts to, we don't want a situation where the big horse decides what happens. What happens to A, let it happen to B. I think that's where we should talk about.
Chineti, the way you set your face and say what happened to A should happen to B.
Yes, because I know that's what a lot of Nigerians wanted to hear.
Yeah, I can't agree less. But then the world is evolving. Of course, Nigeria will also evolve. But let's look at it also from the point of view of World Press Freedom Day also, which happens to be today. Yeah. Understand? We talk about the World Press Freedom Day, and that's freedom of press across the world. So we'll probably come back to that. Let's just touch the next story quickly before we come back to World Press Freedom, because there are a lot of things to say about press freedom across Africa.
Do we allow the press in Nigeria?
We'll come back to that story, because that story is a heated conversation.
Let's take this story from Leadership newspaper, where the Uni Abuja ASU embarked on indefinite strike. The University of Abuja branch of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has begun an indefinite strike to draw attention to developments bordering the union. The union announced its decision to embark on the strike yesterday at the end of its congress held at the permanent site of the institution. The chairman of the branch, Dr. Silvano Sugo, reported in an interview that the union has resolved to embark on a total and indefinite strike with immediate effect. You know, yesterday, Godwin, when we had a social commentator, Mr. Yakub, on this show, on the headline review, we spoke about education jam. And I remember him mentioning something about strike. And I told him that the problem is not the age of these students, whether it's 16 or 18. The problem is when they get into school, you'll ASUU strike allow them graduate. Because that is the case now within Abuja. We have students who just wrote JAMB, and this school is going on strike. What is the fate of these students? I mean, the school can as well go for 6 months, 1 year, if the government doesn't meet their demands. And what happens? Students suffer. Everybody suffers. I mean, I'm speaking for everybody. I'm just looking at the ripple effect of all of these things, because it's like when one person decides to, or when a body decides to, the effect reaches everybody. School is on strike. What happens to the students? Students stop going to school. The child graduates at age 37 now. You don't get a job outside. Why? Because of the government. So the government needs to do something. We are not seeing their demands here, but I know that every time ASUU strikes, they've laid their complaints and they've said it over and over again before the government. And so if the government doesn't reach agreements with them, it means that we are jeopardizing the education of students in Uni Abuja.
But then I keep asking one question that question keeps begging for answer. Must we always resolve to strike actions every now and then?
But if you won't meet demands, what do you want me to do? I think that the government understands the language of strike.
If there's other way we can boycott the system without going on strike, can we put a system in place where we can say, okay, if this be the case, ASUU will withdraw 30% of its lecturers from the university system.
So you leave more people jobless?
No, as in not jobless per se. We take out certain number of persons, like lecturers, okay, for now, just to test the waters and tell the government that we're serious. So major courses in the field, like let's say in law, law of evidence is one course that every law student must pass. Same thing with equity and trust is one major course for every law student taught. Criminal criminal law and legal system. These are very important courses for law students to undergo and they must pass to be able to be called law graduates. What if ASUU can say, okay, for each department, for the major courses that students must pass before they are called to the Nigerian bar, we're going to pull the lecturers out from those courses. Let's think of new ways to do this. Okay, other courses can be going on, but this major one, they won't sit exam for, which means that it's still be delayed.
Let me tell you something that happened to me. When I was in SS2, we didn't have a computer teacher. There was no teacher. No one cared. And we wrote computer in our year. Whether you passed or not, it wasn't anybody's business. This is the Nigerian government we are dealing with. So I feel like, we're even battling with having more lecturers, having lecturers take courses. So I think if you even say withdraw, you're helping them. You're helping them save their money.
But I'm looking at it from University of Abuja's
I get your
point of view.
Yeah.
If we're saying University of Abuja is a federal institution to start with, it is resident in the federal capital territory. And this calls for concern. If we're saying we cannot have a smooth academic section within the federal capital territory, it calls for concern. Let ASUU begin to look for other modalities and strengthening the institutions so that we can have students go to the university and be sure that 4 years program is a 4 years program. If I'm going to graduate after my 4 years, I should be a graduate.
I agree.
Because the world will not wait for your educational system, no matter how slow, slowly the system is.
Time waits for no one.
This world is moving. In law, there's a legal maxim they use. They say, let me try to use a maxim. It's a legal maxim. I need to apologize first before using it, Chinatu, so that before you start saying.
Well, Press Freedom Day.
Well, the word is tempora mutente ethnos mutenos in illis. Tempora mutente ethnos mutenos in illis. That is, time change, and we change with time. So the world is moving. Things are changing. Nigeria, we're still battling with revolving around ASUU strike. We're not changing with time. Let ASUU begin to look for other modalities, other ways to address these pressing issues. If it means to boycott and to get to the government offices and also the VC, shut it down and do other things, let there be demonstrations. But strike right now in the 21st century, to believe me, it's a no-no. Most countries are not having this conversation.
I think I'm tilting towards your point of view about finding out new modalities, because at the end of the day, what really matters is the welfare of the students and the lecturers and the staff of the school. So if that is not considered as priority, then we are not ready for education in this country.
So why don't you start doing other things apart from education?
Exactly. I mean, the way Nigeria is, even as a lecturer, we were in school, we saw lecturers selling stockfish, selling things. Oh, you can't even.
Now this calls for concern. So we are calling government across the country to allow for press freedom and open governance. We're also calling for release of detained press men and women around the world, and by celebrating all press persons who have had to go through pain in the face of jobs, of doing their jobs. We're calling on the government right now, because the job of a press, it's not an easy task. So right now we're using today being the Press Freedom Day to call on all government across the world to please look into pressmen and women, pressmen, I beg your pardon, pressmen that have been detained across the country, across the world, and please ensure that they are released without any, especially those ones that have been held captive by different terrorist groups in Afghanistan, in other Southeast Asia countries and what have you. Please, it is Freedom Day. By the United Nations Human Rights Act, what the Magna Carta of 1215, freedom of expression is enshrined in as a fundamental human right. And of course, as pressmen we are entitled to some form of, we are obliged to express the mind of the people. That's why truth is always in our consciousness. So we are calling on all governments across the world to ensure that, please, we are appealing to the governments across all the countries in the world to please look at it and ensure that this press freedom is given a priority across board.
On my part, I'll just say that members of the press are regarded as watchdogs of the society. And so today is another reminder that the watchdog should be allowed to watch the society the way it should be watched. Because if you intimidate them, you're taking their jobs from them and you're not letting them do the jobs they're supposed to do. So no intimidation, no discrimination. Please let the pressmen and women exercise their duties accordingly.
And if this is not even allowed to return us back to the Stone Age, to return us back to the primordial state where
we use the town crier to...
Yes. It's still a means of communication, by the way.
As long as we get the message across.
No matter how terrible it is, press must continue to express themselves.
We don't back down. That's just what we're
And we're not
saying.
backing down anytime soon. Well, this is the size of today's headline reviews on Afro Connect TV. We know and we believe that you had fun with us just like we did here. It's a weekend edition. I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Chinatu?
I'm so happy and I can't wait for Monday. So see you on Monday. For me, it's bye.
From all of us here in the studio,
it's bye.
it's bye for now. Bye.
Bye.